So this panel is about supporting working family caregivers, something I think we all can agree is extremely important. Likely we have worked and tried to care, but as we're doing our work, I think it would be really hard pressed to find anybody who's here today out of everyone in the care economy who hasn't thought about, maybe I should put my work out there into employee benefits. Right? Like, it makes good sense. That could be an easier marketing strategy, but a lot of times it's really, really hard. And so we have handpicked some people who have successfully broken into that space to share what their journey's been like. Tell us what it was like to get into employee benefits, how they're doing their work in that space, and then answer all of our crazy questions about it. All right, let me introduce answer. We'll start with you, Bonnie, and just take time to answer these questions. So, what do you feel is key for supporting working family caregivers, and what does your work do to address that?
Hi, everyone. I always say first, and it took me a really long time to be able to say this, but first, I'm a family caregiver, and second, I lead for a company company. So I work full time. I care for, I have a young son who's 4.5. I care for him. I also care for my two year-old parents who live in Baltimore where I grew up, and my mother-in-law now is starting, she has Parkinson's, and she's starting on Palm Beach, so now I get to all the places I have to go to care for them. So, so that's a little bit about me. I'm also a marketer. I do marketing for Home Thrive, and Home Thrive is sometimes supposed to talk about what we do. Home Thrive is we are a company, we're an innovator. We provide a caregiving, a digital platform for family caregivers, and it is an employee benefit. So we sell into employers, and employers offer our solution called Dari to their employees, and it really is you know, the heart of what we do, and what we really say is what you need to think about when you're supporting caregivers is empathy. It's all about the caregiver and being there in the times that they need help and in the ways that they need help, and helping the employers understand that. So we have this proprietary, empathetic product and marketing design, and what that has allowed us to do is create this digital platform that is, again, everything for the caregiver. For the caregivers who want self-service, we have a self-service platform. We have podcasts. We recently, you'll meet Liz soon. We recently interviewed Liz and have that as some of our content to help people learn. We have videos, we have tips, we have checklists, we have toolkits, we have live chat with our experts. Everything's powered by our experts. And then when people need really intensive support, when things really are going downhill and people are on that vicious cycle, there's the help button that you can easily upgrade and work one-on-one with the caregiver. So again, to me, the biggest advice for supporting caregivers is that empathy, and just that really truly understanding what caregivers need, that the journey is episodic, that people need different levels of support at different times.
Hi everybody, I'm Hillary Eva, co-founder and chief operating officer. Carol, very emotional right out of personal experience that my brother, thanks to his younger, and I have her sisters caring for their aging parents. And Carol is essentially a tech-enabled services company. We provide personalized guidance as well as digital tools that help caregivers confidently navigate the ups and downs of caregiver journeys. And we are offered as an employee benefit. We're also as a member benefit by health plans. And in each case, we help those organizations identify and then connect with the caregivers in their midst, and then we also serve as the National Family Caregiver Help Desk for the Caregiver Action Network, which some of you may know. And that relationship has given us the opportunity to talk to thousands of caregivers, really deepening our knowledge of all the questions, concerns, problems that caregivers have. In terms of the personal guidance, we have a team of what we call care advocates, they're caregiving experts who, first of all, really just provide a listening ear. They're on call to talk to caregivers, develop a relationship of trust, and then help them problem solve. And then with our digital tools, we help circles, sort of care teams, which might include siblings, parents, learn, collaborate, and plan their caregiving together. Maybe just a very quick example and to sort of bring to life what we do. We've been working with one caregiver, an employee recently, started talking to her. She was recognizing that her mother, who was living independently, had memory challenges. And so initially that interaction with Sue was coaching her on having a conversation with her mom about that she might need in the home, and then assessing what kind of help was needed, identifying potential in-home care providers, helping with those decisions. Now, fast forward another year, it's time for mom to be in the care community. So we're helping Sue identify those options and make decisions and in terms of what's key to supporting our employees in the workplace, I'll sort of echo some of the things you just said. I mean, first off, employers have to recognize that there are caregivers in the workplace. They have to acknowledge that they exist and that caregiving challenges impact the workplace. They bring stress, distraction, and impact the overall well-being. They also need to recognize that everybody's caregiving journey is unique, and it can extend over time. And so solutions need to address that unique journey for everyone. It's not just sort of one-time thing. It's also important to be creative in how employers are reaching out to employees, because caregivers, as probably all of you, and so we need to be able to reach out to them in a way that resonates with them, even if they don't use the word caregiver when they think of themselves. They just think they're being a good daughter or a loving spouse. And then finally, I think employers have to recognize the complexity of that it potentially covers many different types of issues and topics, and so any sort of solution really needs to be responsive to that.
Hi, everyone. Liz O'Donnell, and I'm the founder of Working Daughter, and we are a community for women who are balancing home care and career. And like so many, came out of experience. Both parents were sick at the same time, and going to well caring was maybe the hardest caregiving. We know how many hard caregiving there are. If I could have quit, I would have. I'm so grateful now that I did not. To maintain my career. So fired by a lot of clients, lost a lot of clients, but still standing. And so, daughter, we are, I call us a community. We're really a media company. We have a website, book, Facebook community that is thriving. And while our focus is really women who are caring for elderly parents, we have caregivers in there. We have men, we call them our dudes. We have them here today. We spend most of our time focused on helping the caregiver make their experience better. Control what you control, like Amy said, and all we can control is ourselves and our mindset and get prepared. And, through our Facebook community, we have these great support systems and articles. We're doing more and more, and I told my panelists earlier, I came to this conference, this is perfect, and Kimberly, I'm cranky. I'm cranky because I spend my time helping make a really difficult experience better for themselves, and I want to expand and have more access to the workforce, the legislators who can help them make it a better experience. That's where Working Daughter wants to spend more of our time, and we do some of that. We partner with Home Thrive to provide access to what they're doing. I work with a very large financial company helping educational planners on how they can do a better job working with caregivers. We go into companies and we do educational sessions. So we, as a media company, really partner with anybody to make the care experience better. And to answer the question that Kimberly asked, what I think is needed is awareness. Elder care for so many reasons can be so invisible in the workplace. I compare it to childcare. They're often conflated, but they're quite different. There's often a lot of joy in the workplace when they're starting a family, and there's a party, and there are, there's polls to see what the date is going to be and what the weight is going to be, and people say, "Show me your pictures." Well, nobody really wanted to hear, about my dad, the Jerry Sykes word with caused aggressive behavior. I remember a coworker once talking about she was planning a wedding, and she's like, "I told them." And I said, "Well, when I planned my mother's funeral, this is what I did." Yeah, I wasn't making any friends at work. That number of ways, and I get the opportunity tomorrow to talk a little bit more about National Working Mothers Day, which will all be a part of it. And tomorrow, our first list of the best places to work. So. Over to Sean.
Hi, everyone. My name is Sean Moore, and I am. I always, like I told you last night, what hat am I wearing? Right now, I am program manager for financial wellness for the Elizabeth Dole Foundation, and I'm also a veteran who spent 23 years in the Army and. Did 7 tours to Afghanistan and came home with those invisible wounds, which makes a difference in what I'm going to say in regard into the working world of veteran caregivers. The Elizabeth Dole Foundation started as an advocacy group, an awareness group to really bring to life of caregivers of veterans, because if you didn't know, the VA doesn't take care of all of our veterans, and they don't do it 24/7. And these caregivers tend to be younger. If you think about when our sons and daughters and sisters and brothers join the military, it's when they're younger, and therefore many of them were injured when they were young. So not only are these caregivers younger, they may be their moms and dads, their siblings, and their adult children, and then their spouses. So these caregivers may not even had an opportunity to get in the workforce, and or they were just starting a career, or they were in school and they didn't get to finish their schooling. So when you think about veterans and their caregivers, a little bit different in this space as well. You hear a lot about military spouse employment. Most of the time they are talking about active duty military spouses. Needed, yet different. And I think that's where in this space we get the veteran caregiver kind of gets lost in the sauce and forgotten about in the workforce. So with the Elizabeth Dole Foundation and in my position, we've really tapped into those organizations, those corporations that are veteran friendly as employers, but we've had to educate them that not all veterans work because they were injured. So they need to target those givers that not only may need to work, but they want to work. This is my self-care. I want to work so I can get a chance to get away. But with the Elizabeth Dole Foundation, that's kind of where we have inserted in, okay, if you're hiring veterans, you know the landscape of what that culture is in the military and the veteran space. Let's take it a step further when those veterans can't work, and how can we keep their caregiver employed or get them back in the workforce, and what do they need? Key in this space for employers and then those caregivers who are employees is the culture. It is so different. And the system of VA is a different beast, and I know Amy had a really good experience with the VA. There's a lot of caregivers that do not have a great experience, and I was thinking about that when she mentioned that earlier, and I kind of wonder if it's a little bit different if there is an elderly veteran versus a younger veteran, as well as physical needs versus mental health needs. Key for an employer, because most of our post 9/11 veterans have the invisible wounds of war, so the mental health challenges, and how do you talk about suicide attempts at work? I do, but that's some of the thoughts. Debbie?
Thank you so much, and so interesting because of some of the other things we've been talking about as well. So I would just like to start with the question, which is what is key for supporting working family caregivers? And I think we've had some great recaps of that, and my big takeaway is raise awareness of this problem in the workplace, and the fact that 30% of every workforce, at least 30, that's the low number I would say, are caring for older adults. If we start talking about other populations, it's even higher, of course, but just caring for older adults is 30% at least of every workforce. And yet we see caregivers of older adults at the back of the line when it comes to benefits and EAP programs and any kind of acknowledgement that this is going on. And I find myself with a real sense of outrage over that. And I personally, I'm a market researcher, I'm a marketing person, a marketer with a Japan expertise. So I have seen the most aged society in the world since 1985. And I became a caregiver when I was 54 in 2007. And it turned me into a caregiver advocate, my experience with my mom. And so what I bring to the party is the raising of awareness, basically, and also hopefully the encouragement to companies to get started. And what I do, I have a company called Aging Matters International, and through that I publish my books, speaking and workshops, content creation. And I also have a partnership in a company called Corporate Caregiver Camps, and we do large-scale immersive training for corporations. And you can see that demonstrated as the finale event of the Care Colloquium on Wednesday. We'll do a little speed dating caregiver camp, hybrid pop-up camp, thanks to Kimberly, and just show you how it can work. And the idea there is to fast track the support for employee caregivers funded by the corporation, and with the corporation getting a benefit from doing something that they should be doing anyway, in my book. And that's basically what we're trying to do. In those large-scale immersive trainings, we would basically cover off with, let's say, 8 speakers in a day, speaking 50 minutes each, self-care, planning, financial, legal, in place, DEI, using technology, and finding resources. Really anything that, of course, we have a big palette of things you can choose from, but we let the company customize that for their caregivers. So the caregivers can even have feedback into what they would like to hear about. That's about it. I'm just trying to scream it out from the rooftops, basically. And I think that's what we're all trying to do.
Okay, next question. Think of employers that maybe haven't adopted, which this is a large demographic of employers, haven't adopted care supports. How do you feel they're missing the mark if they're not?
Well, so as you say, some people are just not offering caregiver support benefit. So that's really insane. And why is that? Caregivers can be hidden in the workplace for a few reasons. One could be that there's a culture where they feel comfortable raising their hands and saying, I have a caregiving issue right now, stressed, because they feel like there might be some negative consequence. That people might judge them or feel that they're not giving 100% to their work responsibilities. And another reason I mentioned, caregivers often just don't self-identify. They don't even think of themselves as caregivers. And so those are a couple of reasons why employers may not offer a benefit at all. They have to real this opportunity. For those employers who do some sort of benefit, there's ways that they can still be missing the mark. I think some offer benefits that address part, but not all of the caregivers' challenges. I think sometimes they may over-index on addressing the time-consuming aspect of caregiving, sort of trying to reduce the distractions and give less focus to the emotional aspects of caregiving that can really take a toll on mental health. Another way they might miss the mark is by failing to think beyond the employee. So our caregiver support is available to the entire care team. So that may be the employee's siblings or and although those folks aren't the employee, they are. And so supporting that full team actually makes life easier for the employee, very much so. And then another way I think is not getting the word out often. As probably everyone in this room knows, caregiving can be thinking about their benefits in January. They may not know that in July, they're going to have a caregiving crisis. So you got to be out there often and trying to reach people at their moment of need. And again, thinking creatively about how to let people know that they have caregiver support, even if they don't think of themselves as a caregiver. So maybe that's webinars on topics that relate to caregiving, but aren't necessarily addressed to people as caregivers.
Sure. There's a lot. We were all kind of talking a lot about the same thing. So one of the things I just want to share is we just recently did our second annual employee caregiving survey. And where I think, this comes in where I think a lot of the employers are missing out, they just really don't get it, right? So we always say 20% or more, 30% even better, right? It's probably even more than that. It's just the people who self-identify. But what this survey this year showed was even more startling than what we expected. So there was a 151% increase from last year in the number of employees who are spending 9+ hours a week on caregiving. 151% increase in just a year. Employers don't, right? And some for the same reasons we're all talking about. People don't self-identify, they don't talk about it. There isn't that culture where people can talk about it. There's also this mismatch of, 2/3 don't have access to it, so the employers aren't providing it, but 80% would take advantage of it. And another really startling fact that I just wanted to share was 54% of the employees said they would leave their job to go to an employer who does offer some kind of support for their career. So I just thought it was really important to share that, because we do this every year, and every year we find more stats that don't surprise us, but and where I really do think employers miss the mark is that, they're still thinking of employee benefits as this traditional employee benefit, the employees of the past. They think of health insurance, You know, like, oh, we have to offer people health insurance, which they do, and those costs are going up, so that's what we have to just, we can't do anything else. But they don't think about the downstream of why those costs are going up. Those costs are going up because employees are, they have health conditions, they're paying more for their insurance because people are sicker, mental health, all of that is getting worse because of this downstream caregiving. And if they solve that caregiving first, then there will be less of that on the back end, but they just quite aren't thinking about that yet. It's getting better. Again, in our survey, 2/3 don't have access. That's better than it was last year. So it is getting better. And Liz, I have a little bit, I know you're cranky because the employers and the media aren't getting it enough. I get it, and you're right. There's still a lot of work to do, but I do feel a momentum. So maybe that'll help me to feel a little better. I really am feeling that momentum pick up. I think you said you feel it too. So that's the positive. So I don't want to just all be here about the negative. A lot of employers are seeing it. It's a little slower than we like, and it's more the progressive ones, but the more that they do it, they talk to their peers, we get people together like this, and it will get better.
Yeah, and I see that, and for a whole host of reasons, this is early days. I think, when we look at employees in the workplace, people living longer, so, 2 people working, people across the country, we won't go into all of that. So I know, but I'm still cranky. You can be cranky. Thank you. The other way I think employers are missing the mark, not so much in the benefits that they're offering, but in the way they think about employee caregivers. I think too many times they think about this as a weakness, a weak chain and a weak link in the chain. This person is distracted. They have, a lot of absenteeism and distractions and responsibilities at home. But I believe caregivers are the best employees you could ever hire. And if employers understood that and could ride this wave with them through their caregiving experience, like, you cannot get a better employee. And the reasons think about our negotiation skills. Like, what do you mean there's no doctor's appointment at 9? I was ordering 14 pills for one person, and I was caring for 2. We're learning tasks that people go to bed figuring out how to do this. At one point, I know personally, I was managing like 7 different departments at a hospital for one patient. He had cardiac, he had oncology, infectious disease. Like, I challenge you to find a hospital administrator. But in seriousness, I think there's an incredible skill set that family caregivers have and can bring to the workplace. We understand the rapidly aging society, and marketers need to do a better job of marketing to them. We just have such great perspective and skills that I think are so transferable. And if our employers stick with us, wow, what we can do for them on the other side.
I think that, a great point, and my thought with that is, so as a caregiver, and say you've been out of the workplace for a while, then how do you best put those skills on a resume so you're not getting overlooked? And one of the things that the Goal Foundation is teaching caregivers how to put not med management on the resume, right? Something different, so that they aren't automatically getting kicked out of in the HR stack of resumes. But that's one more thing on our plate as caregivers, right? Wouldn't it be wonderful to educate the human resource people, the talent acquisition people, of what skills do caregivers bring, just like you said, the multitasking and what have you, so that they can recognize that better, where we're not having to go, oh gosh, what do I put for this on my resume, instead of teaching them. We have to teach the employee. We also have to teach the employer on why are we such good employees.
So I've been selling things to corporations for a long time, like over 30-something years. And what I think I can bring to the party is that hard-nosed, how the hell are we going to sell it? because it's really hard, and we'll talk about that a little bit more. I go at it from the losing money. And we know that corporations are losing something like, I don't know my exact number, but I think it's $50 billion annually in the US alone. And it's on my website, just in case you want to make sure it's right. And it's going to double, more than double by 20, because this problem is not going away. So there's a double-edged sword that we also don't have any KPIs. So companies don't count this stuff, so they don't see it. It's like this leakage that is happening because of caregivers in the workplace, and it's related to absenteeism and presenteeism. It's related to retention, because about a third of all caregivers actually leave their jobs, and it costs double to replace an employee who leaves. And it's also related to future healthcare costs, because caregivers are known to suffer from physical and emotional challenges and also financial. So there are very real costs that can be tracked if we can start identifying caregivers, as we talked about, and then tracking it. When I first saw that as a researcher, I thought, oh geez, they'll be targeting us for, like getting us out of the workforce, right? Once they see how much we cost. But I don't think it's that. I think we've got to be brave and just go for it, because it really is costing companies a lot of money. And that's the only thing they listen to. That's the only thing companies really listen to at the end of the day. That and shame, okay? Shame. Those are the two things that we can actually do. So I think if we can keep pounding away about the cost, and also the second point related to that is, if companies will do this and support their caregivers as older adults, they actually get employee goodwill. And that feeds right into retention, which is really important right now. We can all see that after the pandemic. And we are seeing more millennials actually ask about caregiver benefits. So talent acquisition is another piece of the puzzle. It's actually quite a big map here that we're talking about, but the case can be made to companies if we just all keep pounding away at it and join together to get these things across. I also think there is a huge and vast leadership opportunity for companies. The companies who step up and do this now, it's like an open playing field. Nobody is doing an excellent job at it. Some companies are, but they are few and far between. So this is a huge marketing opportunity for companies. Actually, it's like a shooting fish in a barrel, really, because it's just not out there. And I believe that companies who take the leadership position and actually do it not only in their own companies and from the top, by the way, not just lips, but the top executives saying, I am a caregiver. I've been a caregiver, and that's why I care about you as my employees, because I know it's really hard. And then also going out in their communities and using what they've learned for their employees to help disadvantaged folks in their communities in which they work. Because you could take the same programs that you're offering, and they're not even expensive. We can fix this problem cheap and fast if we have big hearts and we think about it. So that's what I say to companies. That's my pitch. I think that's it for me.
Leave it to a marketing expert like Deb to segue so nicely into the next question. So I'm going to make this our last canned question, so we have plenty of time for questions from the audience. So just give me phrases. The question is, like, I know as I've been pitching to employers, I get a lot of comebacks to shut me down. So what do you see are some of those things that they're saying? They're like, I'm not interested right now. I hear, I don't think I have that many caregivers in my employee body, or we don't want to invest the money in that right now. Or what are some things you've heard? And then we'll use that as a jumping point for some of the questions from the audience. Okay.
Excellent question.
Right?
Yeah. So I'd say, so everything you just said is my healthcare healthcare costs going up, you know, my budget, I don't have a budget for anything else. I need to put it all towards our health insurance. Or we don't have, I don't think we have a problem. I'm not hearing about it. We hear a lot of people, like, there's just not enough urgency, is my biggest thing, is they just don't get what the problem is in a big enough way, to get them there.
I think can't wrap their heads around what caregiving is, having a hard time understanding that it can be physical, it can be emotional, it can be dealing with a whole bunch of administrative stuff. It can be planning ahead, dealing with a whole being a long haul caregiver. It's hard for them to just wrap their heads around what that is and then figure out what to do about it.
And I hear, our employees aren't asking for this, so why would we give something, you know, working parents are asking for things, but nobody's asking for this. And it was the report that Joe Fuller at Harvard Business School did with care.com a few years ago about a caring culture. And he says, survey your employees, ask them, and they'll tell you what they need.
That's exactly what I was going to think or say, is that we may be our own worst enemy in the workplace, and because we're not speaking up, I imagine all you all in this room are speaking up. Yet we need to empower and educate caregivers on how to speak up, when to speak up, what to ask for, and get a collective group together in their workplace. They probably talk to other people, maybe just not the people that are making the decisions. There's tons of ERGs. Are there caregiving ERGs? There's not a lot. So how about starting, empowering caregivers to start an ERG. So then the employers are going, oh gosh, we do have caregivers in our midst.
And I guess, creating primary demand is something that no client wants to hear. I've had to say that a lot in Japan to clients trying to bring products into Japan. And, that's kind of what we're trying to do, is create primary demand among company buyers. And what I hear is, I just hear complete distraction with trying to get people back to work after the pandemic, remote, they're all worried about that. DEI is a big competitor to this. That's what people put their money into. And also the mental health thing is very big now. And so what I'm trying to do is say, this is part of that. This cuts across all of, and it's a big piece of that. If it's 30%, I just keep jamming on that. And it's sometimes, I think I said online one time, it feels like you're screaming into a black hole. It's just frightening, but I'm not going to stop, and I don't think any of us are stopping. No one is stopping here, and I don't think anyone is stopping in this room. And I think we're making progress as well, you mentioned, and we're going to get there.
All right, you can go to the whole crowd, or you can go to a person. Ellen, go ahead.
Okay, I just want to say I wish I knew you people. In 2011, when I started my company, Keep in Mind, I'm consulting. I'm a dementia background and a dementia caregiver. I'd been in the industry 10 years at that point, at high levels of the care industry. And I then became a family caregiver, negotiated my first consulting contract from the parking lot of the emergency hospital that I had to fly into town to because my dad had fallen in blah-de-blah. You'll learn more about me. I'm speaking on Wednesday if you'd like to hear me. But why am I so jazzed about this? Because I will say, when I had that aha moment in that parking lot, like, holy snarkies, I'm like really I'm growing my career from the parking lot, and I'm now about to. So I launched what I called at that time Caregiving 411, and it was absolutely exactly what we're talking about. Balance, it's all over my website, balancing care and career. This is a thing. Your loss of productivity that Debbie talks about, you have to hit these. Listen, we're all altruistic. We all are trying to do the thing for the right reasons. Let's never change that. But to get this message where it needs to be, we got to hit them in the pocketbook. It flies against everything that we believe in. But if we really believe in what we believe in, we have to get it to that corporate level, or all those silent people that are suffering in silence won't ever know each other or have it. Let me leave you with this. So it took me 2 years to get my first clients, 2 clients, Kimberly Clark, which, hello, we know them, and Duke Energy. I'm in the Carolinas, and they are our provider of our electric system there. And I can't remember if it was you, Liz, or if it was the beautiful lady from Debbie Elizabeth Dolan. Shauna. How did I get into those 2 organizations? It took me 2 years to do it, but I found the work group. They had this caregiving work group that got like a $4,000 a year budget at Kimberly Clark in Wisconsin. And I specialize in dementia, so I was coming in with dementia care. Same kind of thing happened at Duke. It was this ramshackle group of folks that on their lunch hour gathered in some available conference room in the back of some part of the building. And I think that now so that has now hopefully grown into this movement where I'm so glad to be walking in lockstep with you people, because the time really is now. It's more urgent now than it ever was. And the whole work from home, remote, like, I think whoever said it, I'm bored 100%. This last sentence is, the time is right. If not now, when? We've got all the right things in place, a tsunami of caregiving happening, people that are kind of trying to figure out new work order that they're trying to, this is the time for us to keep moving forward like never before. For what you're doing.
I make one. So you made a really good point about the pocketbook, and I just want to bring up, we recently interviewed the CHRO of a very large organization you probably interacted with this morning. You may not even know you did, but what she said was, you know, we asked her, what advice do you have for other CHROs and other organizations? And she said, you know, if you don't get it, you haven't lived it, so go talk to other people. And what he said was, and the reason I wanted to bring this up is, you know, there is a tenfold ROI. It's just not the traditional dollar in your face, direct dollar that people are used to seeing. So you have to reimagine what ROI is, but it's there. It's the productivity. It's all, and she said it's easy tenfold, if not more. So that's why I wanted to bring that up, because that is the message that you have to hit home, because that's what people understand. But you have to make sure, you have to help people reimagine that ROI, because if they say, well, I want $1 for $1, then you have to find what is that dollar.
And we don't have that data yet.
Yeah, no.
Hey, Debbie, get cracking on that. Get the data.
So the important part of it.
Rhonda, okay.
Rhonda Klug, and I am from a corporation, Harry and David, and I hear you, and that's why I'm here. We actually have an initiative called the Caregiver Initiative. It's just starting, but a company, so I'm from Metro Oregon. Centers all over the world. We're owned by a parent company called 1-800-Flowers, which has multiple brands throughout the United States. And so Jim McCann is the founder. He's the one that sent me here today. So it's a start, right? We work closely with our HR teams. We have multiple ERGs, to your point, Liz, or everybody, Mandy, or Sean, excuse me, Sean. Just Sean. But we don't have one for caregiver employees, which is great. So this is why I'm here. It's really twofold. I had a dad that passed away in January, so caregiving all last year. I had my uncle in March, and I had both my mom and my brother pass away 1 week apart in April. So it's been like, I can't wait for next year. I've heard that from a lot of people. So it is hard, and this really resonates with me for work as well. And so we can make it happen. In terms of, do we have, HR, do we have a benefit for this? We're very passionate in terms of working with our employees, giving them the time off that they need, but is there a benefit?
I think, just to be sort of give an optimistic view on this, is that I think there is a caregiving component to DEI initiatives, and people are starting to see that supporting caregivers has some benefits as it relates to health equity. So there's maybe a little bit of glimmer of hope there.
Anytime I use it in that frame, people are like, what?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's a great way, it's inclusive, it's, so it is talking about.
I agree. The optimism, the pandemic, as horrible as it was, the one thing that it did do is I think a lot, the fact that you're here from David, that says a lot, right? That employers they're recognizing it and they do want to do the right thing. Still, that, I do think it is getting better.
I think employers often see family caregivers as that average family caregiver, late 40s, early 50s. So they're, not talking about making a group of people happy. So remind people that 25% are millennials. That people are coming into caregiving younger and younger. And from the racism perspective, if that goes back to policy, that goes back to how are we paying and what benefits are we offering our paid caregivers? Terrific.
And could I just add this too? So I've been with Harry and David for 35 years, and they do see the dedication. So that is the thing, you're a caregiver by nature, whether you're a true caregiver in the profession. So there are companies out there that recognize that.
There are.
Absolutely, absolutely. The ageism thing is big though in our society. I mean, having lived for 30-something years in Japan, where it's not necessarily anywhere close to being as ageist as we are, like they revere their elders there. And we don't, we do not. It's the last allowable prejudice in our society. You hear people all the time go, oh yeah, they're old, right? Like I hear, I'm 68, so I've experienced ageism and genderism and everything else, but that's okay. That's why I say how old I am, because I want people to know what it looks like and that it doesn't have, I'm sorry, I'm totally vital. I'm out there pitching, and I think we just have to keep working on it. And I think we also are seeing a movement where we are seeing companies embrace taking back older workers into the workforce if they need to, because there's the work. So we have a lot of people working on this and a lot of great movement. I'm very positive about it, actually.
And we're gonna take one more, but you please hold them captive if you want after this. I'm just gonna stop the recording after this question. Consuelo, you've had your hand up for a very long time.
Thank you so much. I'm Consuelo Marshall, an occupational therapist for 27 years. And it's only me. There's no corporation. There's no marketing agent. I'm me. I'm posting. I'm doing it all. And it just stems out of a heart of over 20 years of doing home health and knocking on the door and say, hi, I'm home health, I'm OT. I'm here to help. And seeing countless of times the caregiver who is so stressed out and overwhelmed because they have no clue of how to get this ball started. No one, they never had a true orientation that continuity of care of getting them home. There was no information given. And even with the start of home health, it's not enough. They're not there long enough to see the big picture of what's going on. And so for me, for years of just seeing anguish on caregivers' face, I was just fueled by trying to make it better for them because I know they need to go back to work, and just really seeing that stress. And then when it hit me, because then I was in their shoes, because my mom had stroke after stroke after stroke. I was faced with the same thing. And as a therapist, I knew the physical part of it, but I was slapped dead in the face with the emotional and financial stuff that goes with that. So as an OT, I am so passionate, and I didn't know all of this existed. Pandemic never happened. I still be just doing home health, still frustrated. But in coming into this arena, I'm so glad you all exist, because I didn't know anything about you all. I just wanted to do it one door knock at a time, just make it so that that person can go back to work. So as an OT, I'm in there to teach caregivers how to do it efficiently. You're working yourself to death. That's why you're running out of the house at the last minute and you're late for work every day. It's because you need somebody who knows what you're facing every day and that can get in there and say, look, let me just show you how to set the bedroom up or use this technique. Did you know they have a piece of equipment that could help make that a little easier? So I am just so excited to have the opportunity to partner with someone that I can add to what you all are doing that is so magnificent. Because I'm there for the care for the patient, the one that's had the stroke, that has Parkinson's, the Alzheimer's, and I'm helping them. But I'm also for that caregiver that follows me to my car. Yes. I can get in my car and I have 8 more patients to see, but they want to tell me, Mom was not telling the truth. I'm breaking my back putting her on the toilet because she don't want to use the bedside commode. And I'm trying to walk them through that process of, you can't tell Mama to do it. You gotta make it so that it's gonna be her idea one day that, oh, I'm gonna use the bedside commode. So that's what I'm hoping to be able to add value to the wonderful work that everybody out there is doing. I'm done.
Well, we're just to pick your brains, please make yourself available throughout the whole 3 days. Also, tomorrow there is a think tank where we're really describing, like, if you want to get into employee benefits, where are the different places you can fit? So like Liz will talk about ERGs, those are employee resource groups. If that's how your work fits in, learn about it, or EAPs, or lunch and learn sessions, and so you can learn the different ways that you could potentially fit in space and then start pitching with your magic, right? So we're gonna move on, but we had some amazing experts up here